there's a very big topic which I wanted to get into. If I start now, we're not going to finish before lunchtime. We might if we're really to get any of these topics, if we get into, we won't finish in a lifetime, not to speak of lunchtime. But what is the Dham? What is this Navadvip Dham? This Dham is revealed to us by the Acaryas. We see that Srila Prabhupada on the Vyasa in the temple, and just behind him we have the portraits of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, we offer him respect. Gauravi bhava bhumis tvam nirdeshta sajjana priyaha Vaishnava sarava bhoma Sri Jagannathaya Tainama. We offer respect to him that he ascertained the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Mayapur, which had become lost for various reasons, due to the one major reason being due to the shifting banks of the Ganga. Because this area is subject to floods, flat land with a major river, the Ganga, running through it, and you can see the banks of the river, they collapse because it's soft soil. And especially at the time of a flood, which is quite common, then before the flood, so anyway the banks are shifting due to the one side of the river, the bank will fall into the river, and on the other side, a little further upstream, that soil will accumulate, and so both ways, by losing soil on one side and by accumulating on the other, the path of the river changes. That's called in Bengal, that soil which accumulates on one side, that's called char. So that's one reason, the course of the river is changing. Another reason is that when there are floods, then before the flood and after the flood, you'll see that when the water goes down, you'll see that the course of the Ganga has shifted. So the actual birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was lost. And there were people claiming, they're still claiming, that the birthplace is in what is now called Navadvip town. In Navadvip town, there are two places which are claimed to be the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he ascertained it to be here in Mayapur. And actually anyway, it's a big story how that was done. Actually, Bhakti Vinod Thakur he researched this. Then we're to discuss all this very big discussion. How Bhakti Vinod Thakur, actually he was government magistrate. First of all, he was a teacher, then he studied to become a magistrate, and at one point he wanted to go to Vrindavan. He wanted to go and settle in Vrindavan, but he was instructed in a dream that you don't go and settle in Vrindavan. There's so much service to do. So much service you have to do in Navadvip Dham. So he came, or he concentrated here. And he wanted to retire from government service, but the government at that time, British government, they didn't want him to retire. They wanted him to remain. So what about those songs, by the way? The songs, we have the printouts in English and Telugu and Tamil. Do we have? So he wasn't satisfied that these places that are claimed as the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the actual place. So he did much research through finding old maps. In Bhakti Ratnaka, which was compiled about 150 to 200 years after the departure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That includes some pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and of devotees in the next generation. So it is an oral tradition. So in there it is stated that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace is within Navadvip in Mayapur. So the village, there's a village called Mayapur, an old village, a Muslim village. That's still there now. If you go just behind the Jogpit, you'll find there's that Mayapur village. At that time, because languages are like that, except Sanskritam, it had become pronounced as Mayapur. Now again it's called Mayapur. So there gained much evidence. But what happened first of all? He was there on the other side of this Jalangi river, known locally as Jalangi, that flows into the Ganga, which is coming this way, known locally as Bhagirathi. Ganga has so many names. One name is Bhagirathi. Locally this river is known as Bhagirathi. So the Jalangi and the Bhagirathi meet here. But the Vaishnavas, they know Jalangi to be Saraswati. I have many questions coming. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur made his residence here. First of all, he took some place, that's Surabhi Kunja. Then after some time he shifted to Swananda Sukata Kunja. These were the names that he gave. Those places are still there. Actually at Surabhi Kunja, there's no proper temple there. They're trying to get some donations to build a temple there. That's being run by some disciples of a disciple of a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So I went there to Surabhi Kunja when I was I just arrived here in Mayapur this time, and I spoke with the devotees there. And well, I didn't tell them this, but I'm telling you. You might get inspired that whatever dakshina I received during this time in Mayapur, apart from some little expenses. As you can see, I just got my head shaved, so we have to give the barber something. So that I want to offer in the service of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur for the temple construction is going on very slowly. So Surabhi Kunja, then he made his house, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at Swananda Sukhata Kunja. There are many songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so anyway, from his house there, he had some idea that the birthplace, by making research, he wasn't satisfied that these places, well actually there was one at that time, then later another one came up. That came up later, that Ramachandrapur, they claimed to be the birthplace. But the place they claimed to be the birthplace, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't satisfied. Seeing the materialistic attitude of the priests there. In Navadvip, in every temple it used to be that you had to pay to go in. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not satisfied with that. And you'll find that, there are many. In Vrindavan you'll find there's more than one Gokul, there's more than one Chiraghat, because there's the ancient one, and then someone decides, hey, this is a good business. If I make a new Chiraghat and advertise it, then people will come and they'll think it's the real place, and I'll get rich, or at least I can live. So they, just by invention, they make a new holy place in competition to the old one. Just totally materialistic in their outlook. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't satisfied. Then from his house one night he was sitting on the veranda and he saw a great light coming from this direction. So the next morning he went to that place where approximately he could see, and he saw there was a place with, it was completely covered by tulasi bushes, and the local older people, they said that yes, this is known in our oral tradition. That would be the local Muslims. This is the birthplace of Nimai. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought with him Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who is Gauravi Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta. He is prayed to that you are the one who ascertained the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he was Vaishnava Sarvabhauma. In the Vaishnava community at that time, he was considered the leader. And Sajjana Priyaha, he was very dear to the Sajjana, to the devotees. So he was brought there. His servant, Bihari Das Babaji, would carry him this time he was more than 120 years old. So his servant would carry him in a basket from place to place. And his skin had grown was hanging down to cover his eyes, and bent over like this. So appearing very old, when he was brought to that place which Bhaktivinoda Thakur thought this must be the actual site of Nimai's birthplace. Then Bihari Babaji put down the basket in which he carried Jagannath Das Babaji. And having come and Jagannath Das Babaji, although he couldn't walk or move, he jumped in the air in ecstasy and ascertained this is the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he did much to, well, there was much opposition to this idea that actually the birthplace is in Mayapur. The people in Navadvip, they didn't want their business spoiled. So there was much opposition, and that's still going on. Especially in time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that rivalry became very strong. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wanted to construct a temple for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at his birthplace, at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. So he went personally door to door in Calcutta collecting for that. Which, to go as a beggar is not considered very respectable. But when a highly respectable person, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was highly respected in society as a government officer or ex-government officer. So he was begging door to door for establishing a temple there, which he did. The present temple which we see, that wasn't the temple. That wasn't what Bhaktivinoda Thakur established. What's the office of that temple? That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur established. Of course, to build a temple there, we have to understand there were no roads, there were no trucks. So to bring all the materials, there were rice fields, and in this vicinity at that time there were jungles also with tigers. Nowadays, most of the land has been cleared. Still in some area there are trees. If you just walk down through here, you can go through a small area where there are a few trees and it's very shady. But much of Bengal at that time, much of India was covered with forest, and in the meantime it's mostly all been cleared. There's been much cutting, and it's going on still, cutting all the forests. So it was there was no ferry service from Mayapur to Navadvip. So, with much difficulty that was built. And it was very difficult to stay for anyone. Of course, there was no electricity. The electricity was brought later by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But that was also very unusual in the rural area to have electricity, to have an arrangement for electricity, to have the wires coming from the power station. And there was opposition from the other side of the river. And no pujari no one wanted to stay. Why would you want to stay in a place full of snakes and scorpions, and completely remote? To bring anything if you want to bring anything, so you have to walk to the ferry ghat, hope that there's a boatman there. It's not that there were so many people and so many boats going up and down. So to bring supply, then you have to go over to Navadvip and bring it over. Nowadays there's all this, everything is carried here and there by truck, but those days were different. So it was very difficult to stay. No one wanted to stay. Pujari wanted to stay away from their family. So it's very difficult. Eventually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent Saraswati Thakur there to oversee the affairs of the Yoga-Peeth. And then eventually he developed, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur developed this whole area with building the big temple there at the Yoga-Peeth, then Shiva Sangan, Advaita Bhavan, and Chandrasekhar Bhavan, which is also, or better known as Sri Chaitanya Mat. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with transcendental vision, he ascertained many of the pastime places of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he described them in his book Sri Navarit Dham Mahatmya. He described what are the glories of Navarit Dham, the ancient history, how that Surabhi Kunja, Godruma, how Surabhi, the mother of all the cows of Golok Vrindavan, came here, Indra came here, Brahma came here, Shiva lives here, all the great Acaryas, they came here, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya. So all this Bhaktivinoda Thakur revealed. And he also revealed how to live in the Dham and how by performing bhajan in the Dham with the mercy of the Vaishnavas and the mercy of the Vaishnava Guru, one can enter into the world of Krishna. He has described that in his songs, which devotees living in the Dham, especially those living in the Dham, actually we should all live in the Dham, always, wherever we may live. We should think, where do you live? I live in Surat or Hyderabad, or someone may say, I live in Surat, I live in Hyderabad, I live in Chennai. But we should think that just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, well, of course, Amito Shananda Shukodabashi. I'm a resident of Swananda Sukada Kunja. That's the name of the house and the kunja he made there. Kunja means small bower, which means a space in wooded area. So he actually lived there. And even when he was apparently not there, when he was in Calcutta or Puri, that he saw. This is my identity. Amita Shananda Shukodabashi Shri Radhika Madhava Charanadasi. I am the servant of Radha and Madhava. Srila Prabhupada installed here Radha Madhava. Those were the deities worshipped by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur at the Yoga-Peeth. He worshipped Lakshmi Priya, Vishnu Priya, Gaur. And Radha Madhava came there. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was at the Yoga-Peeth one time. One Brahmin came. He is coming from East Bengal and going on yatra, on pilgrimage to Vrindavan. Yatra, that means we should walk actually. Nowadays we go by train or whatever. But actually the way to go on pilgrimage is to walk. So he was going on pilgrimage from Bengal, East Bengal, to Vrindavan. bringing his deities with him. But having come from Bengal to Navadvip, from East Bengal to Navadvip, he found that to maintain the puja while on yatra, it is difficult. So he requested Bhaktivinoda Thakur that you please worship these deities here, Sri Radha Madhava. And on the way back, I will again take them. And he didn't come back. And Radha Madhava have been there ever since. So we find in many of the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he prays to Radha and Krishna, specifically as Radha Madhava. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janda Vallabha. Radha and Radha Govinda. Other names he also gives, but especially these two. Radha Madhava, Radha Govinda. So Radha Madhava are also the household deities of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. In Choti, he was worshipping in his family home in Orissa. So where are those songs? You have them all? Did you distribute the song sheets? Do you have there this song? I'm just forgetting how it begins. Let me see the song sheet. Which songs are there? Oh, that one. That's the first one there. Siddhi Lalasa. This comes under the collection of songs called Siddhi Lalasa. The first one begins like that. That's there on the sheet. Kobe Gora Bone. So we'll sing this and then we can break up the meeting. Then we can discuss it later also. But I have to find it in here. Now there's one line which begins, toward the end, Gaura, Braja, what does it say in yours? Does it say Vane or there are two readings? What does it say in your sheet? Gaura, Braja, Jane in this book. In some readings it says Bone. It's Ja. You have in yours also. Okay, well, I'll just give a quick translation and we can discuss it later. He's saying when in the forest of Gaur, here Gaur means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on the bank of the Suradhuni, the heavenly river, or the river of the demigods. That means the Ganga, it's the name for Ganga. Calling out, Ha Radhe, Ha Krishna. When will I, crying, wandering here and there, giving up bodily happiness, Kandi Aberabo Deha Shukachari, among the various trees and creepers at the root of the trees, I will eating, my food will be that which begging in the homes of chandalas. And water, I will drink the water of the Saraswati. Rolling on the ground in the various forests and calling out loudly the names of Krishna. Offering respects, bowing down to the residents of the Dham, begging them for a drop of mercy, smearing on my body the dust from the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas, myself dressed as an avadhut, which is another untranslatable word, means one who is not Shudra, not a Vaishya, not a Kshatriya, not a Brahmana, not a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha or Sannyasi, and not a Chandal either. Neither any of the Varnas or Ashrams, nor below them, just completely another category. It means Paramahamsa, the dress of a Paramahamsa. So Gauda here seeing the residents of Gauda, which means the whole land of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Roughly we can say West Bengal. Seeing that as non-different from Vrindavan, the residents of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Dham, seeing them as non-different from the residents of Vrindavan, or not specifically not seeing any difference, then I will be a resident of Vrindavan, living in Navadvip Dham, doing all these things, being a resident of Vrindavan. Then, by doing all that, the Swarup, the very form, the Dham, will be revealed to my eyes, and I will be a servant of Radha. So this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives us through these songs. Of course, there are many other songs. We shouldn't take only these songs. There are so many songs in which he, for instance, Biddhar Bilashay Katainu Kal Paramashahoshayam. He describes how he spent much of his life studying mundane knowledge and then he understands that's all useless. He spent much of his life, he describes, in his words, although we shouldn't take it like that, that he was in illusion as a grihasta, like this. So actually, that's why we have to enter the Dham. We can be taken by the Acaryas who reveal the Dham. But it's not such a cheap thing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given so much literature to guide us on the path of Krishna consciousness. So among those are his songs, and this is one of his kirtans which he has composed, which is specifically about how to live in the Dham and receive the mercy of the residents of the Dham and actually become a member of to be situated in the Dham, not exactly in the conventional way of thinking, but in the actual way, which is to be accepted within the coterie of those who serve Radha and Krishna, who serve Lakshmi Priya, Vishnu Priya, Gauranga, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas. There are many songs Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written along these themes. This is one of them. So we'll sing that now. Kobe Gaura Bane, we can sing. We have mridangas, kartals.